color plays a crucial role in conveying emotions through the cinema. Whether a movie turns out to be great or not can really depend on how well the colors are adjusted. If the color grading is done well, it can make the movie even better. But if it's not, it can really bring the whole thing down. In other words, if you've got a pro color grader, they can work magic on a basic phone video and make it look like it was filmed on a fancy Hollywood camera. Now, just imagine how much better a professionally shot video can look with a good color grading. And if you stay until the end, I'll show you my two different color grading approaches, the simple and more advanced one, and we'll share resulting LUTs with you. So get ready, because it is about to get technical. Making a video involves three main stages. First, there is a pre-production where you do all the planning, hiring, and scripting. Then comes production, which is when you actually shoot the video. And lastly, there is a post-production where you edit the footage, add sound, visual effects, and make it all come together. Color grading is typically done during the post-production stage. It's best to perform color grading at the end of the video editing process, once all the scenes have been locked in place, meaning no further cuts, trims, or movement will be made to them. Color grading is often used interchangeably with color correction, which is the process that precedes color grading, but they are usually take part in the same workflow. Color correction is the process of adjusting the colors of a video to make them appear more natural and lifelike, resembling the way our eyes see colors in real life. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty of the color grading, it's worth mentioning the different recording formats. Why? Because the way a video is recorded can seriously affect how you go about the color grading it. Recording formats can be conceptualized in terms of their size or the amount of data that is stored within the video file for each format. RAW is the biggest because of its uncompressed nature. It retains the most data recorded by the camera's sensor and provides the most flexibility. But the downside is that the file sizes are huge. For example, 1 minute of uncompressed raw 4K footage can take up to 8 gigabytes of storage. Pretty chunky, eh? Then goes log, or logarithmic profile. Is a shooting profile which provides sorta a middle ground in between the raw and compressed formats and gives a wide dynamic and tonal range, allowing more room to apply color and style choices. Different camera systems have their own implementations of the log format. For example, Sony has S-Log with its variations S-Log2 and S-Log3, and actually this video right now is filmed on the Sony's S-Log3 profile. Canon has C-Log2 and 3, Panasonic has V-Log, and so on and so forth. To give an example for the file size, 1 minute of 4K 10bit 25 frames per second footage recorded in the Sony S-Log3 resulted in 2.5 gigabytes of data. And of course, there is already compressed video formats. Usually they are recorded in the profile called Rec 709. This is the least demanding video format in terms of the space. But the trade-off, of course, is the limited color grading flexibility in post. Alright, let's dive into the color grading process. There are several professional software applications available for color grading. And with the right knowledge and skills, similar results can be achieved with any of them. However, I will be focusing on DaVinci Resolve, a tool that is widely used by Hollywood production studios. It's worth noting that DaVinci Resolve covers not only color grading, but also other post-production steps such as editing, sound, and visual effects. Additionally, it has a free version that provides all the necessary features for entire video post-production process. The color grading workflow in DaVinci Resolve is structured with nodes. You can think of a single node as a layer. And if you have multiple nodes, then the following node is only able to see so much as the previous node provides. Alright, hence we are familiar with the nodes now, we can start color grading. In general, I split my color grading approach into three big parts. First one is the color correction, which we've touched upon already. It makes image from the camera look like real life, or in other words, similar to what human eyes see. Second step is the primaries. This is where all the big rocks happen, such as exposure, gamma, white balance adjustments, and the third one is your look. This is the most artistic part. This is where the further color adjustments and effects are happening. As promised in the beginning, let's get through two different scenes and color grade them with my two different approaches. First, we'll do the simple one, and after that, we'll take up on more advanced approach. All right, here we are inside the DaVinci Resolve on the Edit tab, and as you can see, I have two clips here. So let's start with the first clip here. And the very first thing I usually do when I do color grading is that I put the adjustment clip, which you can find inside the effects tab. Then you see adjustment clip and you can just drag and drop it inside your edit timeline. Why adjustment clip? It's simple because adjustment clip allows you to have control over how much of your video you want to apply the same color grade to. So for example, we've got these two clips here and I would like for them both to have same color grade. I can just stretch this adjustment clip so that both clips will have the same color grade, as opposed to I will have to apply the color grade first to this clip and then color grade to the second clip, which is obviously will take longer. The next step is to go to the color tab, and here's our nodes as I've explained you before. We only have got one now, so let's add a few more. So 1, 2, 3, we've got 3 of them. The first thing I do inside the nodes is, before even, doing any big rock adjustments such as, white balance, exposure, yada yada, I actually do the color space transform adjustment, which you can find inside the effects tab here. So we can close effects tab and open here. And here's our color space transform. If you can't see it in here, maybe somewhere there, you can probably just type color space transform, and here you go, this is it. So we just drag and drop it onto the middle node. And before doing any adjustments further, we will put a label on the node. It will be our input device transform. So why input device transform, you may ask? It's simple because this is where we transform the raw video, that is our file, that is our video file, into something that is more pleasing to the eye. So basically, this particular step here is actually color correction, which makes the whole image look more lifelike, not that faded away. First thing first, you need to know which picture profile your video has been recorded into. In our case, it is a Sony S-Gamma3 Cine, so that's the color space, and then the gamma would be Sony S-Log3. Whereabouts that? There you go. See, it already makes some changes. And then the further things we could do here is we will actually transform the output to the Rec 709, and then the gamma would be 2.4. This view kind of reflects what your eyes might have seen during the recording, so that's color correction. But we haven't done here yet because, as you may notice, the image itself is quite overexposed. It still needs some adjustments. So let's go ahead and do exposure node here, and inside the exposure node we're gonna go to the wheels in here, and we'll try to change the offset a bit by scrolling the global offset down a bit. All right, something like this. So that's before, that's after, looking way better. Actually, let's also show not only scopes, but everything in here. So we can see how stretched our colors are, where our reds, greens, and blues, and you know, all the good things. Also the skin colors, that's a good one as well. So we can check that by just taking a picture. It's actually good. So that line here corresponds to the skin color. Ideally, the skin colors should be along this line, and in our case, that's pretty accurate. The next thing we can probably do is we can apply some gamma correction, or so-called cinematic curve. So for that, we can go ahead inside the curve section. We can add another node after the input device transform. We can call it probably gamma. And then inside here, we're gonna do a slight cinematic curve adjustment, maybe lower down mids a bit, something along these lines. So that makes image a bit more contrasty. Before and after, before and after. You see, we just added a bit more juice to the image. All right, and now we can continue going on to the actual color grading, where we play with colors, you know, change them, and yada yada. But because it is a simple approach and the goal here is to save us time, what we're gonna do now is we are gonna use LUTs, and specifically film looks, because we all like cinematic looks, aren't we? Yeah, so we're gonna call this one LUT. And before even going and applying the LUT, one thing that needs to change in here, we would need to change the output here, because film looks, they work in the different color space and gamma. So we changed the gamma to a Cineon film log, and now we can go ahead and play with the LUTs. Another cool thing is that whenever you hover over the LUT, you can immediately see the change in the looks. So this one would be more cold. This is as well. So this is warmer look. This is kind of warmer, and this is also warmer. So I actually liked the, where was it? This 60, was it 60? I think I like this one. All right, let's just apply this look. And here you go. We've got our look ready. So this is ungraded and this is the graded look. As you can see, quite a few differences. So for now, if you want to go further here, we're kind of done here, but obviously, as you can see, the highlights are still a bit out. So what we can do here is we can go down to the exposure and go to the wheels here and try to bring highlights down. So say -30. See, that already looks better. Yep, something like this, maybe -20. Yeah. And there you go. This is how you do the simple approach. Basically, it's 2 steps instead of 3. So first one, you do big rocks, such as exposure and gamma, and then you do your color correction, which is, these days in DaVinci Resolve, is so simple to do. It's just, you know, you do your color space transform effect on the node, and that's it. The only thing that you need to know here is the gamma and picture profile that the video has been recorded into. You should know that, of course. And then after that, yeah, you just slap the LUT that you prefer and that's it. I will put the link to this particular LUT down in the description below, so feel free to download it and play with it. Now I can show you the advantage of the adjustment clip again. So as you can see now, it's on our first clip, but we can actually drag and stretch it to the next one. And if we're happy with it, we call today, right? The grading bit is done. But of course, it's not in our case because we are gonna do yet another grade here. I prefer actually put different colors for different grades, so I know that they are different. So we can mark this one as purple and go ahead with it. So let's go to the color tab, make sure that our adjustment clip is selected in the clips. Now we don't need LUTs anymore because we're gonna go hardcore all in on that. So let's do another 3 nodes. Again, first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna slap your color space transform onto it. Also, don't forget to label that so you would know which node is responsible for what. Again, video was filmed in the Sony S-Gamma3 Cine and the gamma was S-Log3. And now the interesting bit. So we're gonna have few hoops on our grading process. Somewhere here we're gonna have output device transform, which would be another color space transform, and watch closely for what I'm gonna do. So in here I'm gonna be working in yet another different color space, which is DaVinci White Gamut and DaVinci White Gamut Intermediate. This way it will give me more room for, you know, color editing inside this gamma. And output device transform would have to again get this input color space in gamma and transform it back to Rec 709, which is our normal TV expects. All right, so we kind of done with our 2 transformations here, and now we can go ahead and apply the big rocks. So the first thing I would probably do is to check the exposure again. So we're gonna call this one as exposure. Again, I feel like this image might benefit from lowering the exposure few steps down. So we do it usually by going to the color wheels and take the global one, which is the offset. And before doing that, we need to see everything here. As you can see, yes, the image is a bit clipped, so we would like to lower the exposure a bit. Something like this. All right, so let's see before and after. Yeah, that's better. All right, another thing that you might notice, as I did in the previous color grade and in this one, is that I do exposure actually before I do the color correction. And the reason for that is that every node works in this sequence. There is obviously parallel nodes and other types of nodes, but in this particular simple workflow, we work with the sequence of the nodes. That means that the following node will only have so much information that the previous one provides. When I apply the big rocks, I would like to work with the most raw data that possible, like basically the most data I have, the better in case of the exposure, because I won't have the problem with clipped shadows or highlights in this case. So let's do gamma, cinematic curve, to make the image juicier and, you know, more cinematic. So here's our curve. So we're just gonna grab this bit, bring it down a bit, so-called S-curve. And as you can see, I apply the changes inside the available color space. In this case, the colors vary from this point to this point. For example, in this example, if I click on the final node, the curve is here. So I'm happy with the gamma so far. Let's go back to the exposure and lower the highlights again. So minus 20-ish. Okay. All right. The next thing that I would like to do is to apply the colors. So add another node. We're gonna call this one color. And this is our artistic bit. First things I prefer to do is to separate shadows and highlights a bit more. And for that, we basically take the shadows wheels, which is left, and bring them into the cold area. As you can see, image changed a bit. It became a bit colder. The further separation here is that we bring highlights into the warmer sort of area. So again, before and after, subtle changes. We can maybe bring shadows even further. Before and after. Yep. Something like this. It obviously depends on what you're after. I'm just showing you my personal preferences, how I work with the image. Before and after. Bring highlights even further down. So how about -30? Yep. Better. I'm kind of already happy with what we've got. So as you can see, this is the initial image, the S-Log3 ungraded, and this is our current grade. I'm already happy with how it looks like, but we can even push it even further. So if we after, this old film look, what we can do next is that we can start adding grain. So we're gonna add a film grain, just a smidge. So for that, it's pretty easy. We have film grain effect, and I usually always go for 35 mil 400T, and minor tweaks and changes that will in total make the overall look better, or like more artistic, or convey some feeling and all this kind of stuff. So in our case, we add the grain, and then I will slightly bump the opacity of it, say to maybe 700-ish. Yeah, see, like a subtle changes to the image. And then we're gonna add another node, which will be our halation. Halation. Again, another subtle look change. Just look at this chin here. Without halation and with halation, it adds this, old film detail, I would say. And that's pretty much it, I think. We can go even further, but so far I'm pretty happy with what we've got. So if we go back to the timeline, here's our LUT look, and here's our look with the custom grade. So we did more steps, but again, it depends. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that with this video I explained to you what color grading is, how it's being made, and what steps of color grading are. Feel free to download and play with the LUTs. I export both of them. They will be down in the description below. Let me know in the comments down below if I missed something or you have any questions. See you on the next one, guys. Cheers.